How are we doing, guys? And welcome back to 𝐅𝐍 TV. This is a late night pre-match Leeds versus Everton match preview. You love a late night upload. I apologise, the setting's not perfect, but I just wanted to get this one done because I am quite busy tomorrow. So I wanted to make sure I got out a preview. As last couple of weeks I've not been able to get out pre-match videos. So quick thoughts on Tuesday night's game. Listen, last weekend I felt was a good reminder that you can't take anything for granted in this league. I think we know that after 80 games back in the league, just over 2 years now, we know we can't take anything for granted. But after such a high of that Chelsea game and then obviously the Barnsley game with the second team, it was just a bit of a reminder that we've still got a way to go. I think that it showed really on Saturday. I don't think we were terrible, but we were just, we've still got elements of our play that I think we do need to improve on. And I think that was always the case. I think despite the Chelsea result, there's still lots for us to improve on. And ultimately, on Tuesday, we have to show a bit more quality in both boxes, defensively and going forward. And I think that's something that has been strong this season. Certainly going forward, we've been brilliant, in terms of creating chances, taking chances. And we were just lacking a little bit with that on Saturday against Brighton. And defensively, they're a very good team. And I think it's interesting against Everton, we are going to find we're playing against another back three / back five shape. Brighton do defend in that 3-5-1-1. It does change into a back five. And Everton do a very similar thing, a very similar shape with the back five. And we've got to find a way to break that down because it's got an extra centre back in the box. It makes it a bit more difficult to create chances because we do like to combine in and around the box, in terms of not having that natural centre forward. We do tend to get the front four playing very narrow and close together. So a back five, naturally, I think we found on Saturday, we found more difficult to break down because, the runs, the different passes that we played against Chelsea, the different movements, were a lot less effective against Brighton. So it's a good test, this one against Everton. I don't think defensively Everton are as good as Brighton, but we just have to show that little bit more quality, better decision making, and I've no doubt we can do that. We've shown it all season. Jack Harrison's in top form, Rodrigo's in top form, Brendan Harrison's in top form, and I think Dan James, Sinisterra can be effective off the right-hand side as well. So I do have that faith in us that we can do the job on Tuesday. I think ultimately, as I've kind of mentioned there, I think we're still testing things out, not just going forward. I think defensively within the back four, obviously with Liam Cooper not being fully fit so far this season, Junior Firpo being out, Luke Ayling being out, I still think we're trying to find the back four combination that works really. And I think at this moment in time, this is the back four that we found is best for us. I think Pascal, despite his struggles on Saturday, has done a good job at left back. I think the centre backs have worked well, and Rasmus Christensen, yes, it might not have been a dream start so far for Rasmus, but I still think I've seen enough of him to say that I think he is going to be a good player for us. But ultimately, we are trying to, get it right in that back four. We are trying to, find that right balance. And of course, Diego Llorente is playing on the left of Robin Koch. I think he's better on the right, but he's having to play there because Pascal's at left back and Liam Cooper's not fully fit at this moment in time. So ultimately, we are testing a lot of things out. So yes, I think in terms of getting a complete performance defensively and going forward, I think there's still quite a bit to do. Yeah, if it needs to be us doing stuff in the transfer market, us getting players back from injury, so be it. But I think it's still a couple of weeks away from being, perfect and perfectly balanced. Going forward, it's a similar situation. I think Sinisterra has done enough now to justify starting games for us, but it asks the question: his best performances have been on the left. Jack Harrison's best performances have been on the left. As I mentioned to Phil on the player ratings, can Sinisterra do a job on the right? Can Jack Harrison do a job on the right? Do we move Brendan Harrison back onto that right-hand side, bring Rodrigo inside and change? Ultimately, we're testing things out. I think we're still at that stage, despite being fifth in the table, 7 points from the first 4 games and some really good performances. We are still testing things out. And I think everyone's fully aware of that. We've lost 2 big players. I keep mentioning it. This will be the last time I mention it specifically in this kind of scenario. Raphinha and Calvin Phillips, we're still trying to find that right balance, within our front four and defensively. And we are a work in progress. I think everyone knows that. We are still a work in progress and we are going at things very much methodically. I don't think we'll see wide-scale changes, in terms of between from what we finished off with on Saturday, what we started with on Saturday to what we will start with on Tuesday against Everton. I don't think we'll see big changes to the team. I don't feel that'll be the case. I think the only change I can see is possibly Dan James's place, coming under scrutiny with Sinisterra's form, potentially, or maybe even Matthijs 𝐾𝐿 going into the 10 role, Brendan Aaronson going onto that right-hand side where he started the season. It is a question, in terms of, it's it is a puzzle, and we're just trying to get all the pieces together. I think we have got all the pieces there, other than maybe the natural centre-forward, fully fit centre-forward, but we have got probably 90% of the pieces. We're just trying to put it all together now, and we put it all together against Chelsea. But again, this is a different test, this one, really. I do personally fully believe in what we're trying to do. I've made notes here and, different things I want to talk about. And it does show, I think, the early table that, I think time's a big factor, in terms of, you look at Brighton. I think Brighton are third in the table at this moment in time. They're 3 years into their projects. And I made this point, after my review on Saturday, that it does take time to perform the way Brighton did, to have that synchronization as a team. It does take time. And nevertheless, we've lost 2 key players, got loads of players injured. We've brought loads of new players in. Jesse Marsch is only new himself. It is going to take time to synchronize things together. And, unless you have got that crazy spending capability that Nottingham Forest have shown or Newcastle have shown, it does take time. It is all about the coaching and the players themselves improving and, working on weaknesses and finding that right balance. And you can only find that right balance, really, not on the training pitch, in games. And, we have got, a really hectic schedule between now and November. So I've no doubt we will have some more disappointments, but it's all about bouncing back now for Leeds. It is all about bouncing back. I've said before about breaking the league down into 3. You've got your top 6 sides, your mid-table, and your sides that are going to struggle. And I think so far we've been competitive against the sides in the mid-table. Obviously, we've totally outplayed Chelsea, which, a top 6 side. So I think we're ahead of schedule. But I think against Everton, I think they are a team at this moment in time I'm expecting to struggle. I don't think they will go down, but I'm expecting them to struggle. You want us to show a level of quality in terms of looking like the better team against Everton, dominating the ball, using the ball well, getting closer to being what we want to be as a team in that kind of sense. And I'm not saying they expect us to be playing like we did against Chelsea every single week, but I think certainly against Everton, you want us to be looking, like the better side, really, creating chances and being dominating the game. Really, is what we've got to aim for. And obviously, it's a game that really, despite our good start to the season, we have to be looking to win. There's no doubt about that. I'm not dismissing Everton's quality at all. They have got some very good individuals. Defensively, I think they've definitely improved from last season. As I said, that back 5 defends really well. I like both wing backs in terms of Mykolenko and Patterson. I think they're very, very, very underrated at this level. And it's going to be interesting, the battles out wide in those situations, both defensively and going forward for us in terms of, trying to break down Everton. But I think the key to winning this game is keeping the ball ultimately. I think keeping the ball, ticking over and, forcing Everton back and, dominating the game in that kind of way. It's not something we tend to do, but Everton are quite a long ball team. They don't keep the ball particularly well themselves, so we have to look to dominate possession. They will drop deep. So we do need, I've said before about trying to break down a back 5 system. Maybe we will need to attack with more numbers. We might need to get Rasmus Christensen right up into the final third, Pascal Struijk right up into the final third, and look to create in those situations. But you can't do that without keeping the ball, because if we're careless on the ball, then Pascal and Rasmus Christensen will be caught on the counter out of position, as we saw against Brighton, really. I think the key has to be keeping the ball and not trying to play Hollywood passes from time to time, and just having that right balance to our play. And finding that right balance in the final third ultimately is going to be key. Defensively, listen, I've already said it about the back 4. It is very much a makeshift back 4 at this moment in time. It's served us well so far, in terms of we've not conceded many goals. But ultimately, the high line, I still fully believe that we have to stick with that. That has been the reason we've got 7 points so far. Yeah, I know we conceded a lot of chances against Brighton, but ultimately, Brighton create a lot of chances. Everton, I think we have to try and squeeze them, and then ultimately the only way we can do that is by pressing high up the pitch and looking to keep the ball in that way. And putting a lot of pressure on Everton when they do get the ball themselves. And listen, it will lead to situations where Demarai Gray might make a run in behind us and find situations in behind, or Dwight McNeil, whoever it is, Neil Maupay, whoever it is, they might get the odd situation. But ultimately, I think that is the best way for us to win football matches. We have to show a level of control, show a level of quality against teams like Everton. Ultimately, I'm not being disrespectful to Everton, but like us, they were a team that just about survived. So I think the only way we can do that is by pressing high, not sitting off Everton and trying to drop back and be worried about the threat in behind by playing a high line. I think we have to keep doing what we're doing. For me, we have to keep doing what we're doing. And yeah, and something I do want to address as well is obviously the transfer window shuts in less than a week. I do think this is a game where I've spoken about left back and striker situation. I do think this is a game where you probably do want that natural centre forward up against the centre backs that Everton have. You know, very streetwise, experienced centre backs in Conor Cody, Tarkowski. Yeah, they're very, very experienced footballers and strong and big and massive. And maybe you do need that natural centre forward in a game like this who can play with a back to goal and hold it up and allow us to keep the ball in the final third ultimately. And that's something maybe we did miss to an extent in games last season. Was quite a big extent in games last season. But I think this is the one game where I look at and think, yeah, in games like this, you want a natural centre forward. And probably the left back situation as well, because I think we do need to push up both fullbacks very high up the pitch, and you probably do want a more natural threat in the final third than Pascal Struijk. I'm just thinking that this particular game, maybe that is where you want the depth, but I still don't think the Brighton game was one that's where the left back and striker situation cost us. I think it was a different type of football match, but this one possibly might be a situation where you probably would want a left back and centre forward. But I still think we can do the job. I still fully believe we can do the job. It's just all speculation at this stage. Listen, I didn't think we'd have 7 points from 4 games, so I'm not going to start ranting about it because we don't know at this point. Ultimately, we don't know how good teams are. We drew against Southampton. We all thought it was a terrible result. Southampton won the week after. The Wolves game, we thought we got a little bit lucky there. End of the day, Wolves haven't won the game since. So, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. It's still the early stage of the season. It's still early for us as well to not get too carried away. But I still think we're still evolving as a team. But this is a game where I want to see things come together a little bit more than what they did against Brighton. And I think they will, because I think Everton, for me, are not as good as Brighton. And I think we're capable of going up another level in performance. Even if we do stick with the same starting 11, I still fully believe we are capable of going up another level in performance from that game. And something in between Chelsea and Brighton would be perfect, really. And I think would be enough to win this game. But let's have no doubts about it. Everton have got the players, the Premier League experience. I've said about Maupay, Tarkowski, Conor Cody. Yes, they might not be outstanding Premier League footballers, but never underestimate experience amongst a group of younger players. The likes of Patterson, Anthony Gordon, Mykolenko, Demarai Gray. Never underestimate that. So Everton have got a nice balance to them. I don't think they'll go down, and they will pose certain threats to us, as I've already said. So it's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be a very end-to-end football match, but I'm hoping it's one that ultimately we are able to show that bit more quality in terms of volume, of creating chances, getting shots off, keeping the ball, and defensively. You just want to see that little bit more from us. But all in all, it's been a great start to the season, and I'm genuinely really looking forward to the game on Tuesday. I've been Oscar Marriott, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully, next video, you might have a studio. I have been working really hard on it in the bank holiday weekend, putting things together and getting it right. And yeah, I've had some really nice donations as well off fans off the channel in terms of memorabilia to put up in the studio. So big thanks to everyone for that as well. In terms of people I do know, face to face at Leeds United have been very, very helpful to me. So big thanks to everyone. Positive vibes only. I think the good thing is as well, we had that disappointing one on Saturday. It was only 1-0. It wasn't a 3 or 4-0 game. I think it's just a case of regrouping and getting straight back into it. And I think it's nice to have a game in such a short space of time to bounce back in. And what an opportunity for us. I've been Oscar Marriott. Thanks so much for watching, and check out the opposition preview and all the other pre-match content. Thanks, guys.